Hello, welcome to the Sideboard here once again at the StarCityGames.com Open Series Season 3 Invitational in New Jersey. I am Nick Miller alongside AJ Kerrigan.
Hello.
Select Side author.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm having a great time.
Yes, you are. And your standard deck is a sweet one.
Yeah.
This is a you and Greg Hatch creation.
Yep, something we've been working on in total for the past couple months, but this build specifically the past week or so.
Right. And you are playing a Jund Aggro deck. There's been some Jund Aggro decks floating around, you know, top 16s here and there.
Yeah.
You know, but this one looks a little more aggressive than most. 12 1-drops, and then your 13th through 16th 1-drop, Vile Rebirth.
Yeah.
Talk about how that card becomes a 2/2 in this deck.
So just a little background. We found that a lot of times the best draws, especially against the most popular deck, Mono Black, are the triple 1-drop draws. And even if you're not playing them all on turn 1 and turn 2, just being able to keep the pressure on and outpace the removal spells is really important. So Vile Rebirth says exile target creature from a graveyard to make it 2/2 zombie. So the biggest concern most people have is, well, what if there's not a creature in the graveyard? But the general response to that is if they're not killing any of our creatures, we're probably winning the game.
Right.
And we also have 8 Blood Rush creatures and a couple other ways to get creatures in the graveyard to pretty consistently turn it on. And it's also an instant, so it plays around Supreme Verdict and other Wrath effects, which is obscenely nice in the control matchups.
A flash 2/2.
And nobody plays around it. Nobody, like, if they attack with their like Legion Loyalist, you'll block every time. They'll never see it coming.
Nice. Now, the ways you utilize this card is you have the 8 Blood Rush cards, Slaughterhorn and Rubble Belt Maka. This Slaughterhorn has seen play in some of the mono green aggro decks. Maka has been all over the place, boss slide, anything Tom Ross is playing.
Yeah.
Lotleth Troll, another card though that allows you to get cards in your graveyard at value.
Yeah. So Lotleth Troll is really where the whole deck came together. We were originally playing mono black aggro, just get a bunch of 1-drops in there, play like Spiteful Return, Moga Marauder, but Greg and his friend came up with Lotleth Troll, and that was where we started splashing colors, started experimenting, and Lotleth Troll is just amazing. So many decks are very soft to that card. There's a couple removal spells for it running around, Bioblight if you don't have a way to, enough creatures to pump it, which you're playing like a 40 creature deck, so you usually do. Celestia Charm if you make it too big, but you can often play around that. The big draw to it is just everyone is playing removal spells or creatures, and it's good against creatures because it blocks really well and it races really well, and Trample gets through blockers.
Yep.
And it's really good against removal spells because it regenerates, and if they're trying to waste time 1-for-1ing you, you can just put all your creatures onto a Lotleth Troll and just have a 6/5, 7/6 regenerator that they're going to have to race or die to.
Yeah, having a massive regenerator and trampler seems pretty good.
Yeah.
Now you've also got Spike Jester, a spicy 2-drop that has seen some play, but the decks that have to play it have to hurt themselves a lot on the mana. This deck already doing that.
Yeah.
So no problem having a 2-mana 3/1 hasty.
Yeah. I mean, we were always, originally we were just Black Green with Scavenging Ooze, and we really needed a better 2-drop. Scavenging Ooze just wasn't powerful enough. So we started to see, well, what if we play other colors? We were already dealing a lot of damage to ourselves with our mana base anyway, because we had cards like Llanowar Waste. So we figured, why not just go all in and play a 3rd color?
Right.
Since we're basically just turning Pain lands into Shock lands at that point, so it's not much of a difference. And Spike Jester's just insanely powerful. He attacks through Sylvan Caryatid, he does a lot of damage, and he's like Spiteful Return with haste, basically.
Right.
So.
Being able to attack through the Caryatid is very huge on its own. While your other creatures can do it at the help of a Blood Rush creature,
yeah,
Jester just does it on its own.
Yeah, we want our 2-drops to be able to kill Sylvan Caryatid on their own. So.
Yeah. Now, 3 Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, so again, the deck is heavily focused on 1-drops. We have a couple 2-drops, but for the most part, it's like Blood Rush creatures and 1-drops, and the 2-drops are supposed to end the game. We wanted another impactful 1-drop, so we looked at different things like Shadow Alley Denizen, Cruel Sadist. We eventually settled on Deathrite Shaman. A couple cute things you can do with it is like 2 Urborgs, you can ramp your mana, so you can play like a turn 2 Lotleth Troll with Regenerate up. But the biggest draw to it is you have a couple spells in your own, not too many, but it's just 2 damage unblockable. So it's basically late in the game when you have excess mana, you're just trying to hold up Regenerate. It allows you to still do 2 damage to your opponent, even through a wealth of blockers.
Right.
And against aggro decks, we're playing green, and a lot of creatures end up in the graveyard. Gaining 2 life a turn is certainly not something to be discounted.
Right, the life gain important, the reach also important.
Yeah.
When you just need to burn them out with Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah.
So, actually, 1-drop 17 through 19
Yeah.
as Vile Rebirth. Now, you said Crippling Blight, a 4-of in your deck, is the best card?
Yeah, so it's a tie between Crippling Blight and Lotleth Troll, but Crippling Blight just does everything you want in a deck of this style. Aggro decks generally have a problem where they have to play 2-mana removal spells that don't kill everything. We now have like Ulcerate, but that even doesn't deal with one of the more important creatures like Courser of Krufix.
Right.
So Crippling Blight, there's very few creatures in an aggro deck that you care about attacking you. a couple examples are Pack Rat Master Waves, and it kills those just fine.
Right.
Foundry Street Denizen, Fire Drinker Satyr, kills all those. And then for the most part, cards like Desecration Demon, cards like Night Veil Spectre, you can just get those out of the way. And I've used it to trigger Tormented Hero too, and it's 1 mana. So in a deck of all 1-drops where you're trying to curve out and play as many creatures per turn, it allows you to stay on curve and kill their creature without having to waste 2 mana to do so. Right. And it just deals with almost everything, unlike something like Doomblade, where if you're playing against mono black, it's going to be dead, or Ultimate Price, if they play a multicolored creature, you're stuck. Crippling Blight will answer almost everything you need to
Always
answer.
live.
Yeah. There's like the only problem card I've seen so far with Crippling Blight that I've had real trouble with is Pelucranos. You make it a 4/4, it can't block, but then they can still blow up your team with its monstrous ability. But other than that, the card's just been insane. It's a card I want to draw 2 or 3 of in almost every matchup.
Right. And what that can't take care of, Dreadbore can.
Yeah, so Planeswalkers can be a problem, specifically Jace. Almost all our creatures are 2 power, so him +1ing, he becomes difficult to kill and difficult to get damage through. Dreadbore kills those. Dreadbore kills really any creature that you have a problem with that Crippling Blight won't take care of, like Pelucranos, for example. So.
Well, this is sweet. This is very aggressive. Something that you guys definitely have tweaked a lot, and you can tell has, some time has been put into it. Let's take a look at the sideboard. Equally spicy. Some Crypt Incursions.
Yeah, so the Burn matchup and the Rabble Red matchup aren't necessarily bad, but there's something you need a little extra to make sure you're getting over the top of them. We've tried different things. We even went as far as trying Eternal Thirst, the card from M15 that gives lifelink. Right. Most people don't know what it does. But Crypt Incursion's really good because in those matchups, you're doing a lot of blocking, or they're doing a lot of killing your creatures in the Burn matchup, and Crypt Incursion late in the game can just gain you 15, 18 life fairly easily. It also deals with Chandra's Phoenix in those matchups too, and then it gives you just enough time to outpace them with your creatures slowly getting through damage.
Pretty awesome. Now you've got your full 4 Mutavaults in the sideboard.
Yeah, so we messed around with a bunch of different cards for the control matchup, like Duress, Thoughtseize, but we eventually settled on Mutavault because it's the most versatile. It also lets we board in some 3-drops like Crypt Incursion or Moga Marauder. It allows us to be able to more reliably cast those if we need to do so in certain matchups.
Right.
But for the most part, it's just extra Supreme Verdict protection. We've also tried like Boon of Erebos, but Mutavault's just consistently the best card to beat Supreme Verdict or other removal spells.
I assume you're taking out the Crippling Blights for the Mutavaults in the control matchups?
Yep. We can even maybe shave a land if we want to, but for the most part, yeah, we can take out Crippling Blights. We can take out some of the Blood Rush creatures because at best in the control matchups they're like Lava Spikes, which is not amazing. Still okay, but not exactly what you want to be doing.
Okay. You've got 4 Skylasher. Mono Blue's still a thing.
Yeah, so obviously it's a concession to Mono Blue. That matchup can be tough. We can outpace them. Crippling Blight's really good. Lotless Troll's very good. But we need something else that we just know will get in damage, similar to Deathrite Shaman in the control matchup, something unblockable that gets through damage. But Skylasher also has incidental value against Mono Black, because you don't want spells in that matchup. Even Vile Rebirth you still kind of want, but counting the Blood Rush creatures as spells, you really don't want too many spells, because you just want to keep playing creatures and hope to outpace their removal spells. So having something as simple as Skylasher, a 2/2 flash, is just very good in that matchup because it makes sure you'll always have creatures, even through their Thoughtseize and Drown in Sorrow draws.
You're overloading the removal, basically.
Yep.
And a couple Moga Marauders seem sweet in this deck.
Yeah, I mean, so it's actually worse here than in Mono Black aggro, because if you give Lotleth Troll Intimidate, they get still blocked with a green creature. So there is some downside to it, but for the most part, you really want to kill Planeswalkers like Xenagos. You also want to get through big green creatures, big dumb green creatures, and that's what Moga Marauder does best. Is he can, especially when you get them low, but then they start to stabilize with Nissas and Xenagoses and Pelucranoses, whatever they have, Moga Marauder can make sure to sneak through the last few points.
Set up that final push.
And it's also really good with Mutavault too, because it makes Mutavault virtually unblockable.
Yeah. And 3 Golgari Charm, assume also helping out the control matchup.
Yeah, it's good against Supreme Verdict. It's also really good against, I mean, enchantments run around, can kill Corsair or Crewfix. Detention Sphere, if the control decks still play that. What I like it a lot against too is the Rabble Red deck. You play some X1s yourself, so sometimes you have to maneuver a board state where it's not going to hurt you just as bad or more than them. But being able to sweep away Foundry Street Denizens, Legion Loyalists, Fire Drinker Satyrs can help a lot in those matchups.
All
make sure you stabilize.
Too.
Yeah.
Seems pretty good, especially when you can get the value off your stuff in the graveyard later on.
Yeah,
too.
Exactly.
All right, AJ, well, this deck is sweet. Big fan. Hope to see you and Greg crushing with it throughout the rest of the Invitational.
I think it's really good in the metagame, so hopefully we do.
I got to agree. Thanks for sitting down with me in the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for all the action here at the Invitational.